Well, everything around you is the expression of God in thought form, and you receive it as thought. You can only think in terms of thought. You're making conjecture about what the reality might be beyond thought, but the only thing you can handle is thought. You can only know yourself in terms of thought too, using thought to assess what you might be, perhaps beyond thought. Everything you see around you is an expression of what God is thinking. He's thinking this in your domain. And you are reflecting upon such, sort of mirroring it in your mind, which is itself a part of God. So he's self-reflecting from every conceivable point of view. Every thought is endowed with the ability to know every other thought and to reflect it and to respond and relate to it. No, that doesn't mean so I'm explaining how thought comes to be or in what domain, in what dimension or why it should be. I suspect it's very well understood in total, in other words, in God's being, but it's not something we have access to, it would seem. And you could say we don't need to solve such because we just need to know what is best. In fact, do what is best. In other words, think what is best. Carrying out those thoughts in action and inaction and affecting the thoughts of God around us, the environment as we imagine it, from the thoughts we're receiving, constantly, endless flow, pouring in and pouring out from us. And we impact this environment around us, this mind, this part of the mind of God. We impact it continuously by our thoughts, by our words, and by our actions. Our actions have a sort of sovereignty within the bounds of what we think of as the laws of nature, and we maneuver and manipulate within that constraint to achieve what we fancy achieving, what we think to achieve. We're on the right track, so to speak, when what we think and what we do and say brings that which we understand to be good. It might be joy, peace, happiness, life, integrity, honesty, truth, creativity, the usual list that any person would define God to be. And when our thoughts, including our thoughts that make actions and impact what we see as the world around us, when our thoughts are in harmony with God, we expand our influence, the domain that we have access to. we penetrate deeper and deeper into the mind of God. And when I say mind, I could have easily said and wanted to say heart of God, because it is these thoughts that bring goodness and are goodness. That constitutes that which is presented to us of God. So I see your face in every sunrise, the colours of the morning are in your eyes, from your eyes, out of your eyes. So it is that your presence is heaven to me, and my soul longs for that continual presence, by which I mean the awareness of such. Because not only are you present, but I am part of your presence. The evidence of God is everywhere, outside of us and in us. But we, of course, in being children of God, are in a world where we see the external as good or bad, according to our understanding of such and experience to date. And it is our growing experience and training that brings us to adulthood. So, some things I find lovely and other things I find repellent, but they're all from the mind of God, all of them. Nothing can exist but for God. God created all things. And in truth, all is good, but it has to appear, manifest if you like, as both good and bad in our experience as children, because we are to learn to avoid the bad and move towards the good. And when you do that faithfully and reliably, well, you've become an adult, able to be utterly free in heaven, for you are in harmony with God and all that actually He loves, and He loves all that He has made. So, to such eyes, all the thoughts of God are in some sense the same in that they are all good. They are the only feasible, that which is consistent with, that which is good. There are in fact no others, except the appearance of such in this phenomenal world of space, time and matter that is our learning, our nursery, our school. And when we graduate from here, well, we graduate into an adult reality in fellowship with God and all the family of God, by which I mean all the unique individuals that make up the host of heaven. Incredibly large and incredibly wonderful. So, as we look at the world around us with its presentment of good and bad, we know in our heart that it's the great purpose. It is appearance. It is simply the lesson. It's not the reality of the world that God and all heaven is made up of, including the classroom, of course, the school. Thank you, Heavenly Father.